Welcome to episode 37 of Gods and Heroes of Ancient Greece. My name is Butterworth, and today we will continue with the tale of Theseus with the story of King Theseus. After Theseus had buried his father with tears and mourning, he kept his promise to Apollo and dedicated to him the ship in which the Attic youths and maidens had set out and on so sad a voyage and come back unharmed. It was a vessel with room for 30 oarsmen, and since the Athenians wanted it to be kept alive forever, the memory of this miraculous return, they preserved it by replacing those planks which rotted away. That was why it was still possible to show this vulnerable relic even many years after the time of Alexander the Great. Theseus was crowned king, and soon he proved that he was not only a hero in wars and quests, but an able organizer of the state, and one who could make happy a nation which was now at peace. In this he excelled beyond Heracles, after whose example he had modeled his life, for he launched upon a great and admirable enterprise. When he came to power, most of the inhabitants of Attica lived in isolated farmsteads and small settlements scattered around the Acropolis and the little city of Athens. It was therefore difficult to assemble them to discuss matters of public interest and concern, and sometimes petty wars were waged about insignificant feuds between one neighbor and another. It was Theseus who united all the citizens of Attica and welded scattered communities into one common state. And he did not accomplish this great work by force in the manner of a tyrant, but traveled from one community and one family to another, seeking to attain their voluntary agreement to this plan. Those who were poor and humble birth did not require much urging, for they had everything to gain from association with the wealthy. To win over the rich and the mighty, he promised that the power of the king, which up to this time had been unlimited, should be curtailed, and that he would give them a constitution which pledged liberty. I myself, said he, will be your leader in wars and at all times the protector of laws. But beyond this, all my fellow citizens shall have equal rights with me. Many of the nobles recognized the advantage of this implied. Others, who were less eager for change in matters of state, feared his popularity among the people, his great power, and his notorious courage, and these therefore preferred to yield to the persuasion of one who could comp them if he wished. And so he abolished the semi-independent powers of the separate townships and concentrated those powers at Athens. He also instituted a holiday for all Attic citizens and called it Panathenea, the feast for all Athenians. Only now did Athens grow into a true city. Before, it had been little more than a palace called by the founders the Palace of Cecrops, with a few houses grouped around it. In order to enlarge his city still more, Theseus invited people from many different regions to make their home there and promised them the rights of citizens, for he wanted to make Athens a city of many people. Lest this mass of persons streaming into the city cause disorder in the newly founded state, he divided the inhabitants into nobles, farmers, and craftsmen, and assigned to each class its peculiar rights and duties. The nobles were valued for their rank and their service to the state, and the farmers for their usefulness, and the craftsmen had the advantage of numbers. Theseus limited his own kingly powers as he had promised, and made them dependent upon the council of the nobles and the assembly of the people. the war with the Amazons. When Theseus had organized his state, he set about making it secure and permanent by nurturing the fear of the gods. To this end, he introduced the worship of Athene as the patron goddess of the land, and as a mark of the reverence for Poseidon, whose special charge he was, and who had long been taken for his father. He initiated, or at least received, the sacred contest on the Isthmus of Corinth, just as Heracles had once done in the case of the Olympic Games in the honor of Zeus. While he was so occupied, Athene was threatened with a curious and unexpected war. In the course of a quest which Theseus had undertaken at an earlier time, he had landed on the coast of the country of the Amazons, and these warlike women, who were not in the least afraid of men, not only did flee from the splendid young hero, but sent him gifts a host bestows upon his guests. Theseus was pleased with the gifts, but still more with the bringer, a lovely Amazon by the name of Hippolyte. He invited her to visit him on his ship, and when she came aboard, set sail and carried her off. When they reached Athens, he married her. Hippolyte was not at all adverse to being the wife of a hero, one who was a powerful king to boot. But the belligerent Amazons, indignant at the bold abduction, brooded on revenge long after the whole incident seemed forgotten. They availed themselves of a time when Athens was unguarded, landed with a fleet of ships, occupied the land, surrounded the city, and invaded it, rushing in like a storm. They even pitched camp in the middle of the city, and the frightened inhabitants took refuge on the Acropolis. Both sides hesitated to launch the attack, but Theseus finally began, after making offerings to the goddess of vengeance, as an oracle had bidden him. At first, the men of Athens were forced to retreat before the onslaught of these women fighters, and they were pressed back to the temple of Eumentes. But when the battle was resumed from another direction, and the right wing of the Amazons were driven back to their camp, and many slain, it is said that in this conflict, Queen Hippolyte, unmindful of her origin, fought on her husband's side, but a spear struck her, and as she aided Theseus, she fell dead. Later, a column was reared to her memory. The war ended with a treaty of peace, which stipulated that the Amazons leave Athens and return to their own country. And here is where I end my tale for today. But I'll be back with more tales, many more tales. Until then, my friends, enjoy the journey.